Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Spoiler review for Doom 2099. Technically Volume 2, but it's also just a one-shot, so whatever, it's still going to count as Volume 2. Okay, check this out. This is a spoiler review, and I did something I almost never do. I did a reshoot. I had to do a reshoot because I read this, and then I did a review on it. Then I read this, and I realized, no, I got to redo this because something all of a sudden switched up. What was it? Well, I'm happy to tell you because there's a spoiler review, but I do have to point out who made the book first because it's only right. Anyway, if you made the book, you'd want to get some kind of credit also, right? So Chip Zdarsky is the writer, Marco Castiello on art, Chris Sotomayor on colors, VC's Clayton Cowles on letters, cover, Tom Coker and Michael Garland, and Max Fuimara on the variant cover. I knew I was going to butcher that. And here's something we rarely ever see. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby created Dr. Doom. And yes, they did. By the way, the design was done by Jay Bowen. So we get Dr. Doom waking up in the middle of the Ravage with some Thorites around him, talking about, yeah, we're going to, beat this guy up and we're going to bring him in and look at his face. He's all ugly, ew, and he's kind of built and stuff like that. Let's just bring this guy in, all right? And the Aesir, the old Aesir, the boss of the Thorites, basically, he's going to reward us. So wait a second, he never rewards us. Let's just kill him, and then they wind up getting killed by Doom. I believe they were killed. It seems like they were killed. At the very least, they were left out there conked on the head. So there's that. This is a wasteland, baby. So Doom starts traveling and through circumstance comes across this guy who calls himself the Tinkerer. Tinkerer 2099? Yes! Oh, but they changed his race, man. They made him into a black guy. Oh, for crying, I hate when they do. Anyway. So the Tinkerer is there chilling out. And Doom now has a lab. And what's Doom going to do when he's got a lab and he's still Dr. Doom? He's going to create some armor. That's what Doom does. He sees his face. He's like, he's got to wrap his face up and all stuff. And all of a sudden, the Kingpin comes to attack him. Kingpin 2099. It's not the same Kingpin. So this rainbow demon-looking Kingpin comes along and starts whacking him. I was sent by the true Doom to destroy you because you're fake. This was pretty surprising. This is where I'm going to pause for a moment. If anybody's read the original Doom 2099, Doom traveled to the future. And the whole time we're thinking, for the first 10 issues or so at least, this is Dr. Doom. Then we learn that it's not actually Dr. Doom. Then later on, in like the 30s or so, we realize that, no, this actually undeniably is Dr. Doom. But we're still left not fully knowing, and we never really find out how he got to the future, what happened. Yeah, he's got a time travel device. That doesn't mean anything. How'd he get to the future? Well, here, maybe this is how he got to the future. Because this is the actual Dr. Doom time travel device. The two, they look like the ceiling lamps that back in schools and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Like the two lights come up, oh, gotcha. And you go off and the thing becomes Blackbeard the Pirate. The trick is that... And if anybody's like, hey, Professor Bill knows his Fantastic Four. Have you ever met Chip Zdarsky? That guy knows a lot. So this guy, he gets attacked by the Kingpin, 2099 Kingpin. And like there's a really great scene where there's this hammer on the ground and the hammer keeps coming back, right? No, not like throw it and it comes back. No, the hammer keeps getting brought back. He comes across the hammer from the Thorites and he's like, this is a tool. These people claim to abscond from technology, but this is the technology that creates technology. Yes, this is one of the 6 and or 8 simple tools. Depends on which curriculum you taught third grade for. I've taught both. And this is one of the basic tools that even if you're going to reverse engineer something all the way back to the basics to like freaking, what is it? In order to make the universe, in order to make apple pie from scratch, you'd have to create the universe. This is a very famous saying. It's a beautiful saying. And you'd still need a hammer at some point in order to do that, right? Or at least one of the basic tools. So Doom... talks about that with the hammer. You know what I'm saying? Like this is one of the primary tools. This is one of the primary technologies. And yet later on, he's got to make this impossible reach for this hammer, for this technology. Like it's practically across the room. and he has to reach for this thing in order to save his life against this kingpin. So now, Doom travels all the way across the desert, the Ravage, with this this Von reactor, kind of like an arc reactor, except it's Dr. Doom's creation, not to be confused with the arc reactor. That's Tony Stark. Screw that guy, right? You may think to yourself, that's a stupid name. Yes, of course it's a stupid name. So is Dr. Doom, if you're not a comic book fan. If you are a comic book fan, it's the greatest freaking name in the world. I think I might. How much does it cost to legally change my name? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like that. I'll be called Thor Doom. Yes. Anyway, so this guy, he goes across the desert. He confronts this primary kingpin guy of the desert, of what is actually Latveria. This Prime Doom, which is the Doom of 2099, apparently, we're gonna get there in a second, is like, you're an imposter. He's like, no, you're an imposter. And he's like, let me guess, you did such and such and such in order to get here, right? He's like, well, that's all I needed. Never fully realizing what's actually happening here. I neglected to tell you a very crucial part of the story. Reed Richards is here, but he's in the head of this Doom who we've been following this entire time. He's just in his head, and Doom realizes he's in his head. He realizes that Richards is just in his head. Is it real? Is it not real? Hard to tell, because he's trying to just tell him, listen, this is a new start for you. You don't need to fashion the armor. You can just forgo all of that stuff and just, even if you're not going to try and do good in the world, if you're not going to try and conquer the world or seek power like you always do, you could just be a human. Find peace. But he doesn't understand Doom. And there's actually this big conversation that Doom finally winds up having with this Richards that's in his head. And what he says is beautiful and frightening at the same time. And it makes this Reed Richards just take pity on him and fizzle away. You don't realize the significance of that until later in the book. This was not actually Doom the entire time. This was not Doom. No, in fact, this was actually Reed Richards. See, they both just had a fight. You'd figure their last fight is actually their penultimate fight. They just had a fight. And they're thinking to themselves, Reed is thinking to himself, I got to get out of here because this isn't worth it, whatever's happening here. Doom's like, you can run if you want, but you're a coward. I'm going to stay here and I'm going to fight. And he goes, and what they were doing, I'm not sure. Hopefully this comes up in the Omega, 2099 Omega, because wow. But he blasts him in the face. We see this. It happens in here. He blasts him in the face. That's what caused the disfiguration of the face. One of the things causing him to think that he's doomed. The other thing is the concussion he surely had. I know there's going to be people talking about Reed Richards is made out of rubber. Is his brain made out of rubber? Are you 100% certain? All right, and even if it is, does that mean that rubber can't be contused? What exactly does that mean? The idea is that something happened. He wound up losing some of his memory. His memory actually wound up getting changed, and the last person he saw, Dr. Doom, he imagined that he's him. I mean, for crying out loud, he's in this pitched battle with his arch nemesis. Yeah, he winds up confusing himself, and there's so many things that remind him of the idea that he's actually Dr. Doom, even though he's really not, because the mind sees what it damn well wants to see. That's just how it works. So he didn't notice when he first landed in the desert that his arms were all stretched and whatnot. He didn't realize that when he made that impossible stretch for that hammer, it's because he can reach impossible distances with his stretchy, rubbery body. God, I love the way that this book worked. I love the way that this book was laid out. When a book can trick you, meanwhile, you're reading the damn thing yourself, but when the book is still tricking you, oh, I'm impressed with that. And I didn't feel stupid afterwards. I didn't feel embarrassed afterwards. I didn't feel like, oh man, I was just bamboozled. Nope. This was good bamboozling. Not like that Spike Lee bamboozle movie. That was just travesty. This was freaking epic. So this is the real Doom, or at least we're led to believe it is, the real Doom 2099. Is this how he came to the future? It's a good possibility. But this was awesome. Also, there's something that happened in this book, and I didn't know to look for it in the previous 2 or 3 2099 books, but Aurora Boras is mentioned. Aurora Boras, of course, is the serpent that stretches around in a circle, possibly around the world if you're the Midgard serpent, Jormungandr, and the tail is placed firmly in the mouth of this serpent. So he's eating his own tail, possibly. It just, encirclement. It's all coming around, all comes back around again, right? It's all relevant. That's what it means. That word was used here because Reed thought that this was the word that would get a Doom bot to suddenly follow him again if he was actually Doom. Now, mind you, maybe this was actually a Doom bot that Reed Richards, who thought he was Doom, confronted. We don't know that for certain. Maybe this isn't the real Doom or the real Doom 2099, technically the same per Aurora Boras. Maybe. But the trick of this is that he thought that this was the word. Whether it was the word or not is irrelevant because he wasn't actually Doom. If we think that Dr. Doom is so silly that he's just going to make it a password that, as long as somebody says the magic word, then the Doom bot will right away acknowledge you as Doom. No, I'm pretty sure there are a lot more safeguards on it than that. So if somebody other than Dr. Doom, like you or I, well, you at least, because I actually am Doom, I actually legally got my name changed while we were doing this video, then Doom would, this Doom bot would recognize the actual Dr. Doom. But if it's not Dr. Doom, well then, you're probably going to get blasted in the face a second time. And that's what wound up happening here. So Reed Richards, meets his ultimate demise? Yeah, I'm cool with that. Because I think all of us love the story of Dr. Doom. So we know that this wasn't Dr. Doom. Was the other thing actually Dr. Doom or just a Doom bot? That we'll never know unless it's revealed. But Aurora Boras, that is the thing that ties everything together. And I can't wait to see how that happens. Guys, Nick Spencer is a genius as far as I'm concerned when it comes to writing comic books. The guy's just absolutely, absurdly, impossibly amazing at what he does. Fitting that he writes for Amazing Spider-Man. Chip Zdarsky, however, is on an entirely different plane of existence. In many ways, this book doesn't seem like it has anything to do with anything else. And yet, even if it didn't, I wouldn't care. This is an amazing book, and it shows not only a fascination and a love, but an understanding of the history and personage of Dr. Doom, and in general, the Fantastic Four. Yeah, dude, Chip Zdarsky for writing the Fantastic Four book, man. I will say it until I'm blue in the face, and I don't see myself changing color today. Sick as I may be, that this thing is not just for hunting. Anyway, man, this was a fantastic book, and even if you're not going to get the other 2099 books, this is a great character study of Dr. Doom. And maybe of Reed Richards. This was a wonderful book, man. God damn, this was a good book. I don't care if this has nothing to do with the 2099 universe, which I doubt it doesn't. This was still a very worthwhile book to get, so don't sleep on this one. I'm serious when I say that. This book brought the biggest smile to my face so far out of all the books I'm reading. And damn, there are a lot of books pre-Christmas. Whew. Anyway, guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.